The blizzard hit Montana territory the way it always did in January. No warning, no mercy. Wind screamed through the telegraph wires strung along Main Street, turning them into frozen violin strings that hummed a death song. Sheriff Cole Banner sat in his office, watching ice crystals crawl across the window like spider webs, listening to his wood stove lose the fight against 20 below. The door burst open. A boy stumbled through, small for 12, lips cracked and bleeding. Snow clung to his threadbare coat. He held a torn piece of paper in one fist, pressed it against Cole's badge hard enough to leave chalk dust on the tin. 3 words in child's handwriting. I saw them. Next door, the mining council meeting was loud enough to shake the wall. Silas Drummond's voice cut through. Martha Thorne's boy, addled since birth, can't speak a lick. Laughter. Boot stomps on plank floor. The boy tried to make sound. His mouth opened. Nothing came. He fell to his knees, still holding that note, and looked up at Cole with eyes that held more certainty than any sworn testimony the sheriff had heard in 30 years. Drummond filled the doorway, brass buttons glinting. That cripple can't testify to nothing, Banner. Cole lifted the boy to his feet, felt how light he was, how his small fingers tapped a rhythm against the badge. 3 taps, pause, 3 more. Then I reckon I'll teach him to write it down. Cole walked the boy to the chair by the stove, felt him shaking under that thin coat. The smell of wet wool filled the small office, mixing with gun oil and the burnt coffee scent that never quite left. Outside, the wind kept screaming. He crossed to the shelf where his late wife's teaching slate had sat untouched for 3 years. Dust showed his fingerprints in the lamplight. Emma had used this board to teach half the children in town their letters before the fever took her. The baby had come too early. Neither one made it past dawn. Cole hadn't spoken her name aloud since the funeral. Emma would have liked you, he said, surprising himself. The boy's eyes widened. He reached for the slate like it was something holy. Cole found a piece of chalk, placed it in those small fingers. Start with your name. The boy's hand moved slowly, carefully. 5 letters. E-L-I. Eli, Cole nodded. Good. Now, tell me what happened. The chalk scratched. Eli's tongue poked out the corner of his mouth in concentration, the way children do when learning to write. But the letters that appeared weren't a child's uncertain scrawl. They were neat, deliberate, almost beautiful. Papa gone. 2 words that hit harder than fists. When? Eli pointed out the window. Through the frost and falling snow, the entrance to mineshaft number 7 was barely visible on the hillside, a black hole in white earth. Cole had heard about the cave-in 2 weeks back. John Thorne, experienced miner, caught when timber gave way, body recovered, buried quick. Widow left with nothing but a boy who couldn't speak and debts she'd never pay off washing other people's clothes. Standard frontier tragedy, except now this boy sat in his office writing words that suggested otherwise. Your pa died in the mine, Cole said carefully. That what you saw? Eli shook his head hard. Wrote again, not accident. The wood stove popped. Outside, the wind shifted, rattling the door in its frame. Cole felt cold that had nothing to do with January. You saw someone hurt him? 3 taps on the desk, 3 more. That same rhythm from earlier. Eli nodded, then wrote, 3 men. You know who? The boy's hand hesitated. Fear showed in his eyes now, real and sharp. He glanced at the door like Drummond might burst back through any second. Cole crouched down to the boy's level, felt his knees protest. Listen to me, Eli. I know you can't talk. I know folks think that means you can't understand things neither, but I've been lawman long enough to read eyes, and yours tell me you're smarter than most grown men in this territory. Eli's shoulders straightened a little. You write what you saw, and I'll make sure people listen. That's a promise. The chalk moved again, slower this time. Not names, just scared. I know, me too. Cole stood, his joints cracking loud enough to make Eli flinch. But some things a man can't compromise on, and I reckon protecting a boy who witnessed murder is one of them. He crossed to the window, looked out at the mine entrance. The storm was getting worse. By morning, the drifts would be 6 feet high in places. Nobody would be traveling for days, which meant Eli was safe here. For now. You hungry? Eli nodded. Cole pulled out his last can of beans, the one he'd been saving, split it into 2 tin cups, heated them on the stove. The smell of salt pork and molasses filled the office, covered the gun oil and burnt coffee. He handed Eli the fuller cup, told himself he wasn't that hungry anyway. They ate in silence. Eli kept glancing at the slate, then at Cole, then back at the slate. Finally, he wrote, "You believe me?" "Yeah, son, I believe you." Tears ran down Eli's face. Not sobbing, he made no sound at all, just water tracking through the dust on his cheeks. He wiped his nose on his sleeve, wrote again with shaking hands, "Thank you." Cole felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been frozen solid since Emma died. He'd forgotten what it felt like to be needed, to matter to someone. "You'll stay here tonight. Storm's too bad to take you home. Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next." Eli curled up in the chair, the slate clutched against his chest like a shield. Within minutes, exhaustion took him under. Cole sat at his desk, staring at those words. 3 men, not accident. Outside, the wind died for just a moment. In that brief silence, Cole heard voices from the saloon next door. Drummond's laugh, loud and certain, the clink of whiskey glasses, men celebrating another profitable week at the mine. Eli whimpered in his sleep, fingers tapping that same rhythm against the slate. 3 taps, pause, 3 more. The town hall meeting started at 10 the next morning. By then, the storm had passed, leaving Main Street buried under fresh snow that squeaked beneath boot heels. Cole walked Eli through cold so sharp it burned the lungs, past storefront windows frosted thick enough to scratch your name in. Doc Abernathy waited on the steps, black bag in hand. He was 65, bent from years of frontier medicine, but his eyes stayed sharp. "Banner, heard you took in the Thorn boy." "He's got something to say." "Can't say much without a voice." "Maybe not, but he can write." Doc studied Eli, who stood half hidden behind Cole's coat. "Let's see what the good citizens make of that." Inside, the hall smelled of damp wool and tobacco juice. 70-some people packed the benches, miners still carrying rock dust in their beards, their wives in faded calico, shopkeepers in clean collars. Up front, Silas Drummond sat at the council table with 4 other men. All of them wore suits too nice for Montana, money that came from somewhere other than honest work. Judge Harlan presided, gavel in hand, old territorial appointee, gray as winter fog. Drummond spotted Cole and smiled. "Sheriff, glad you could join us. Heard you found young Eli wandering in the storm." "He wasn't wandering. He came to report a crime." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone laughed. "A crime?" Drummond leaned back, hooked his thumbs in his vest. "And what crime would that be?" Cole nudged Eli forward. The boy clutched his slate like a life rope. Every eye in the room fixed on him, some curious, most skeptical, a few openly mocking. "Show them," Cole said quietly. Eli's hand shook so hard the chalk nearly fell. But he wrote, letter by careful letter. "My papa was murdered." Silence dropped like an anvil. Then the whispers started. "Poor child. Grief does strange things. His mama probably put ideas in his head." Drummond stood, buttoned his jacket. "Sheriff, I understand the boy lost his father. We all grieve for John Thorne, but cave-ins happen. It's the nature of mining to suggest otherwise. I suggest we hear what the boy has to say." Doc Abernathy moved down the aisle, his boots echoing on plank floor. "Or in this case, what he has to write." "Doc," Drummond's voice cooled. "The boy is mute, has been since birth. Everyone knows the Thorne child is simple." Eli flinched like he'd been slapped. Cole's hand went to his gun belt. Not to the pistol, just rested there. A warning. "Call him simple again, and we'll test who's smarter, you or him." Doc reached the front, set his black bag on the council table with a thump. "I examined John Thorne's body before burial, at the family's request." Drummond's smile thinned. The inquest ruled accidental death. The inquest was 3 men looking at a corpse for 5 minutes. Doc opened his bag, pulled out a folded document. "I took longer, found something interesting." He unfolded the paper, a hand-drawn diagram of a human skull, marked with measurements and notes. "Gunpowder residue," Doc said. "On the left temporal bone, not rock dust, not cave-in trauma, gunpowder." The room went silent except for the crackle of the wood stove in the corner. "You're saying he was shot?" Judge Harlan leaned forward. "I'm saying the wound is consistent with close-range discharge. The cave-in came after." Drummond stood slowly. "That's speculation, Doc. Miners use dynamite. Residue gets everywhere. Not on the outside of a skull, not in that pattern." People turned to look at each other. The calculus was shifting. A boy's grief was one thing, Doc Abernathy's medical opinion was another. The old man had delivered half the children in this territory. He didn't lie. Drummond's jaw tightened. "And who's your witness, Doc? A boy who can't even say his own name?" Laughter from the council table. Not from the crowd. They stayed quiet now. Cole pushed Eli gently forward. Write what you saw. The boy's hands shook worse now, but the chalk moved. Everyone craned to see. I saw 3 men at mine entrance at dawn on January 4th. They took Papa inside. I heard shouting, then a shot, then explosion. When smoke cleared, only 2 men came out. The handwriting was perfect, the spelling exact, the detail precise, date, time, sequence. A woman in the front row gasped. Lord have mercy, that child can write better than my husband. Because he ain't simple, Cole's voice carried to the back benches. He's been listening, watching, understanding everything you people say. You just never bothered to give him a way to tell you. Eli wrote more. I hid in rocks. I saw their faces. Names, Drummond snapped. Give us names or this is fantasy. Eli looked up at Cole. The fear in those eyes was pure and terrible. It's all right, son. The chalk scratched. I am scared they will hurt Mama. That hit different. These were mining families. They understood what happened to witnesses, to families who knew too much. Judge Harlan cleared his throat. Sheriff, I appreciate your compassion, but we have a legal issue here. What issue? Territorial law, Section 47. A witness must provide verbal oath before testimony is admissible in court. The judge looked genuinely regretful. Without speech, the boy cannot swear. Without oath, his written account holds no legal weight. The room erupted, half the crowd shouting objections, the other half nodding agreement. Cole felt the ground shift beneath him. Drummond smiled wide now. There you have it. The law is clear. Judge Harlan raised his gavel. I'm sorry, Banner. Without a speaking witness, there is no case. The gavel fell like a coffin lid closing. Eli stared at the slate in his hands. His mouth opened in a silent scream. No sound, just anguish. He threw the chalk across the room and collapsed against Cole's legs. Cole lifted him, felt how small he was, how the whole weight of injustice pressed down on 12-year-old shoulders that couldn't even cry out for help. Drummond adjusted his cuffs. Council meeting adjourned. Doc Abernathy caught up with Cole outside the hall. The sun was high and cold, glaring off snow that hadn't been touched since the storm. Eli walked between them, head down, the slate tucked under his arm like something broken. That was a massacre in there, Doc said. Law's the law, I reckon. Law's supposed to serve justice, not strangle it. Doc stopped, pulled his coat tighter. I lost my boy to the mines 8 years back, Samuel. He was 16, strong as an ox, smart too, wanted to save money for college back east. Cole had heard the story. Everyone had. Cave-in during night shift. Body never recovered. Company called it bad luck. Paid my wife $50 and told us to move on. Doc's voice went rough. I knew it wasn't luck. I knew they'd been warned about those support beams. But I had no proof, no witnesses, and no stomach for fighting men with money and lawyers. He looked at Eli. I won't make that mistake twice. Doc, the judge was clear. The judge is a coward who takes council money to look the other way. Doc grabbed Cole's arm. But he said the boy needs a voice. He didn't say it had to come from his throat. Cole stopped walking. What are you getting at? You remember Jeb Holloway, runs the Telegraph station? Old cavalryman, deaf in one ear from Shiloh. He knows more about communication without speaking than anyone in this territory. Doc's eyes gleamed. Morse code, Banner. Dots and dashes. A whole language that doesn't need a single spoken word. The idea hung in the frozen air between them. You want to teach a mute boy telegraph code? I want to give him a voice the law can't ignore. Doc smiled. Think about it. Telegraph testimony goes out over the wire, gets transcribed at every station, creates a record, multiple witnesses to the same message at the same time. Judge will say it's not verbal oath. Judge can argue with 100 telegraph operators across Montana territory. See how that goes for him. Eli tugged Cole's coat. When the sheriff looked down, the boy was writing, Can I learn? You'd have to practice every day, hours of it. Eli nodded so hard his hair flopped. Cole looked up at the telegraph wires strung along Main Street, humming in the wind. He thought about voices that traveled without mouths, about justice that might not need lungs. Let's go talk to Jeb. The telegraph station sat at the end of Main Street, a small building that smelled of machine oil and old tobacco. Jeb Holloway was 70 if he was a day, bent over his key like a question mark, He looked up when they entered, squinted at Eli. That the Thorn boy? He needs to learn Morse code, Doc said. Does he now? Jeb set down his coffee, studied Eli with the careful attention of a man who'd spent 50 years listening to rhythms. Come here, son. Eli approached the telegraph key like it might bite him. You ever hear this sound? Jeb tapped out a pattern. Click, 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 pause, click, pause, click, 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 click. Eli's eyes went wide. His hand started moving. 3 taps on the table, pause, 1 tap, pause, 3 more. Jeb's bushy eyebrows shot up. Son of a bitch. What? Cole moved closer. That's SOS, International Distress Signal. Jeb stared at Eli. Where'd you learn that? Eli shrugged, wrote on his slate. Just sounds right. Just sounds right, Jeb repeated softly. Boy, you got any idea what you just did? Eli shook his head. You heard a pattern once and recreated it perfect. Jeb scratched his beard. I've trained telegraphers for the Army. Most take weeks to get that good. You did it in 5 seconds. Doc grinned. So you'll teach him? Teach him? Jeb laughed. Hell, Doc, this boy's got a gift. He'll be faster than me inside a month. He pulled out a sheet with the Morse alphabet. This is how letters translate to sound. See? A is dot dash, B is dash dot dot dot. You memorize these, you can say anything without opening your mouth. Eli's fingers traced the symbols like they were scripture. Now, here's the beauty of it, Jeb continued, warming to his subject. Telegraph's the official voice of commerce and government. When a message goes out, it's legal record. Multiple stations receive, multiple operators transcribe, creates what they call simultaneous verification. Nobody can claim you didn't say it. Cole felt something shift in his chest. Hope, maybe, or just the memory of what hope felt like. There's something else, Jeb said quietly. I got a backup line. Backup? Built it during the war, runs through the old mining tunnels, comes out at the church basement. Company never knew about it. Redundant system in case the main line got cut. He glanced at Doc, which it might if someone wanted to silence a witness. Counsel doesn't know? Counsel barely knows how to button their own pants. Jeb tapped the key. It's functional. I test it once a month, completely separate from the main line. Doc's grin widened. So even if they cut the primary, message still goes through. Jeb looked at Eli. You want to learn this, son? Eli grabbed the slate, wrote in letters big enough to see across the room. Yes. Then we start tonight. Can't do it during the day. Too many people watching. But after dark, when the station's quiet, I'll teach you everything I know. They shook on it. Jeb's gnarled hand wrapped around Eli's small one. On the way out, Eli stopped at the telegraph key. He reached out, touched it gently. The brass was warm from Jeb's hand, worn smooth from 50 years of messages traveling across empty country. The boy tapped experimentally. Click, 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 click. Jeb translated without looking. Thank you. Cole felt his throat tighten. Outside, the sun was already dropping toward the mountains. February cold bit through their coats, but for the first time since the storm, Cole felt warm. Eli wrote one more thing before they left. When do we start? Tonight, Jeb said. Bring a lantern and coffee. We got work to do. For 3 weeks, Eli learned. Every night, after dark, Cole walked him to the telegraph station through cold that turned breath to ice. The boy's fingers flew across the practice key, absorbing Morse code like soil takes rain after drought. Jeb said he'd never seen anything like it. During the day, Cole taught him to write full sentences, complex thoughts. Eli's vocabulary grew. So did the pile of filled slate boards stacked in the corner of the sheriff's office. Martha Thorne came by once a week to bring clean laundry. She never asked for payment, just set the folded shirts on Cole's desk, looked at her son bent over his lessons, and left with tears in her eyes that she wouldn't let fall until she was outside. Then Drummond made his move. It was late February when the knock came. Cole opened the door to find Silas Drummond standing there with 2 men in suits and Judge Harlan looking uncomfortable behind them. Morning, Sheriff. Drummond's smile was all teeth. Official business, I'm afraid. Cole didn't move from the doorway. Behind him, Eli sat at the desk, practicing alphabet drills. What kind of business? The boy. Drummond pulled papers from his coat. We've petitioned for emergency custody transfer. Martha Thorne is indigent, unable to provide proper care. The child requires institutional placement. The words hit like fists. You're trying to take him to an asylum. Territorial home for afflicted children, in Helena. Perfectly respectable facility. He's not afflicted. He's mute. Precisely why he needs specialized care. Drummond's voice dripped false sympathy. Surely you see the sense in it, Banner. The boy deserves trained professionals, not a washerwoman mother and a bachelor sheriff playing guardian. Cole's hand drifted to his gun belt. Those papers signed? Judge Harlan stepped forward, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Pending hearing, tomorrow at 10. Counsel's recommendation carries significant weight in these matters. I bet it does. Cole studied the judge's face. How much they paying you to steal a woman's child? Harlan flushed. This is about the boy's welfare. His welfare. Cole spat the words. You want to lock him up where he can't write down what he saw, where he can't testify. That's what this is about. Drummond's smile never wavered. You're upset. Understandable. But let's be practical, Sheriff. Even if the boy could testify, which legally he cannot, what proof do you have? Some childish accusations? Doc's speculation about gunpowder? He pulled another paper from his coat. I have a signed affidavit from 3 separate witnesses placing me in Butte on January 4th, 50 miles from here. Whatever the boy thinks he saw, I couldn't possibly have been involved. Cole took the paper, scanned it. 3 signatures, all respected businessmen, all on the council payroll. This doesn't prove anything. It proves reasonable doubt, which is all the law requires. Drummond adjusted his cuffs. Face facts, Banner. You've got no case, no legal standing, no way forward. The humane thing is to let the boy get proper care. Behind Cole, Eli's chalk scratched faster. The sound of panic translated to slate. I'll fight this. With what? You're a county sheriff with no evidence and a witness the law won't recognize. Drummond leaned closer. But I'm a reasonable man. I'll make you an offer. $500. Sign the custody transfer. Forget this whole unfortunate business. That's good money, Banner. More than you'll see in 6 months of sheriffing. The smell of his cologne mixed with something else. Fear, maybe. Hidden under confidence. The smell of a man who knew he was exposed but thought money and lawyers could save him. Get out of my office. Think about it. Drummond tipped his hat. Hearing's at 10. Bring the boy. His mother, too. Let's settle this civilized. They left. Cole shut the door, stood with his forehead against the wood. His hands shook with rage he couldn't release. Eli tapped his shoulder, held up the slate. What happens tomorrow? I don't know, son. The hearing room smelled like old paper and defeat. Morning light came weak through dirty windows. Martha Thorne sat in the front row, wearing her Sunday dress, the only nice thing she owned. Her hands twisted a handkerchief until it was damp rope. Drummond sat with his lawyers. They had stacks of documents, character witnesses lined up, testimony about Martha's poverty, her inadequate home, Eli's special needs. Cole sat with Doc and Jeb. They had a slate board and hoped that was running out fast. Judge Harlan took his seat, banged the gavel. Matter of custody regarding Eli Thorne, age 12. Counsel petition for institutional placement. The lawyer stood, slick man from Helena with words like polished silver. He talked about Martha's monthly income, $4 washing clothes, her one-room cabin, her inability to provide medical care or education for a disabled child. He made poverty sound like crime. Martha didn't have a lawyer, couldn't afford one. She stood when called, voice barely above a whisper. He's my boy. I take care of him fine. Mrs. Thorne, can you read? No, sir. Can you provide him formal education? No, sir. Medical treatment for his condition? He don't have a condition, he just can't talk. The lawyer smiled like he'd won. Exactly. A serious disability requiring specialized intervention you cannot provide. He sat down. The character witnesses followed. All councilmen, or their wives, all saying the same thing. Poor Martha, poor afflicted boy, better off in Helena with trained staff. When they finished, Judge Harlan looked at Cole. Sheriff, you have anything to add? Cole stood. The boy's learning to read and write. He's smart. Smarter than most. He's got family who loves him. That ought to count for something. Love doesn't pay for food, Sheriff. Or medical care. And what happens when he gets to Helena? When he tries to write what he knows about his father's murder? Drummond's lawyer shot up. Objection. The matter of John Thorne's death is closed. Accidental death, ruled by inquest. This is irrelevant. Sustained. Harlan's gavel fell. Sheriff, stick to custody matters. Cole felt the trap close. They'd boxed him perfectly. Every angle covered, every exit blocked. The judge shuffled papers. Based on testimony presented, I find Martha Thorne unable to provide adequate care for her sons with special needs. Custody is hereby transferred to Territorial Home for Afflicted Children, effective— No! Martha's voice cracked like thunder. Everyone turned. She stood, shaking but firm. You can't take my boy. Mrs. Thorne, the decision is made. He's all I got left. You take him, you kill me. Drummond stood smoothly. Your Honor, perhaps a brief recess to let emotions settle. No recess needed. Harlan signed the document. Transfer effective in 10 days, February 28th. Mrs. Thorne, you may visit your son and Helena twice yearly, supervised. Martha collapsed. Women rushed to help her. Eli's mouth opened in that silent scream again. No sound, just horror. He grabbed his slate, wrote frantically, I stay, I stay, I stay, over and over until the chalk broke and his fingers bled. Cole pulled him close, felt the boy's body rack with soundless sobs. Drummond collected his papers, nodded to his lawyers. On his way out, he paused at Cole's shoulder. 10 days, Sheriff. Make your peace with it. That night, the women came. Cole heard them before he saw them, soft footsteps in melting snow, whispers in the dark. He opened the door to find 15 women standing in his yard, carrying baskets covered with cloth. Martha Thorne stood in front, eyes red but dry. The oldest woman stepped forward, Mrs. Holcomb, whose husband worked the same shift John Thorne had. She set her basket on the porch step. We brought food, and this. She pulled coins from her apron pocket, pennies mostly, a few nickels, maybe $2 total. It ain't much. Another woman added her coins to the pile. My man saw things in that mine, too. He's too scared to say so. Mine also, a younger woman, barely 20. They threaten to fire anyone who talks. We got 3 babies. We can't risk it. One by one, they set down their offerings, bread wrapped in flour sacks, jars of preserved vegetables, a worn blanket, coins that represented meals these families wouldn't eat. Martha took it all in silence. When the last woman had given what she could, Mrs. Holcomb spoke again. We can't testify. Can't put our names to nothing, but we know what you're fighting for. She looked at Cole. And we know you ain't got much time. They left as quietly as they'd come, disappearing into darkness that smelled of wood smoke and thawing earth. March was coming. The ground was starting to soften. Cole helped Martha carry everything inside. Eli sat at the desk, staring at nothing. They believe you, Cole said quietly. Whole town knows something's wrong. They just can't say it out loud. Martha set the baskets down, touched her son's hair. 10 days. What do we do in 10 days? We give him a voice they can't ignore. The telegraph lessons intensified. Jeb opened the station every night from 10 until 2 in the morning. Eli's fingers flew across the key now, translating thought to click without pause. The boy could receive messages at full speed, transcribe them perfect. He's ready, Jeb said on the 5th night. Fast as any operator I've trained, faster than most. Cole practiced beside him, learning the code himself. Slower, clumsier, but enough to communicate. Enough to speak with his son in a language that bypassed mouths entirely. On the 7th night, Eli tapped out a full message. When I go to Helena, they will make me forget. Cole's hand stilled on his own practice key. What do you mean? Eli's fingers moved again. Institutions make children quiet. I heard stories. They say if you cause trouble, they give you medicine that makes your mind slow. I will forget, Papa. Forget what I saw. The oil lamp flickered. Outside, rain pattered on the tin roof. Not snow anymore, but cold March rain that turned the streets to mud. That's not going to happen, Cole said. How do you stop it? Cole looked at Jeb. The old man's face was grim. We make them hear you before they can take you, Jeb said. We force this into the open where the whole territory sees. Make enough noise that even Helena can't silence you. Eli tapped. How? Emergency retrial. New evidence. Cole pulled the papers Doc had given him, the full autopsy report, diagrams, chemical analysis. We petition the territorial judge in Helena. Go over Harlan's head. That'll take weeks, Jeb said. He's got 10 days. Then we buy more time. How? Cole stood, paced to the window. The main telegraph wire hummed in the wind and rain. Behind the station, barely visible, the backup line ran into darkness. What if we send the testimony now, tonight, broadcast it to every station in Montana, create a record before the hearing even happens? Jeb stroked his beard. That's unprecedented. Telegraphs for official business, personal messages. Not legal testimony. Is there a law against it? Not that I know of. Then it's official business. A witness statement regarding an ongoing investigation. Cole turned back to Eli. You ready to tell the whole territory what you saw? The boy's hand moved to his slate. He wrote one word, yes. Then he erased it, wrote again, scared. Me too, Cole admitted. But Jeb's right. You're ready. And come February 28th, they'll put you on a train to Helena. This is our shot. Eli's fingers drummed on the desk. Not random, that 3-pause-3 rhythm he'd tapped since the beginning, the rhythm that had been Morse code all along, buried in his instincts like a language his body knew before his mind learned the rules. He picked up the slate, wrote, Will they listen? They'll have no choice. Every operator in the territory will transcribe your words. Multiple copies, multiple witnesses, they can't disappear, all of them. Jeb pulled out a map, marked stations from Billings to Missoula. 17 active lines. If we send during business hours tomorrow, every station receives simultaneously. That's 17 telegraph operators creating 17 identical records of your testimony. And if Drummond tries to cut the main line, Cole asked. Backup line kicks in automatic. Message goes through regardless. Jeb grinned. They built their own trap and don't even know it. Eli wrote, When? Tomorrow, noon, when the circuit's most active. Jeb checked his pocket watch. That gives you 12 hours to practice your full statement. Make it clear, make it complete. This is your one shot to speak to Montana. The boy nodded. His hand moved to the telegraph key, rested there like it was part of him now. Cole touched his shoulder. Your pa would be proud of you. Eli looked up, tears on his face. He tapped out slowly, carefully. I miss him. Cole tapped back, fumbling but sincere. I know. Me too. They sat there in lamplight and rain, two people learning to speak without voices, preparing to shout truth loud enough for a whole territory to hear. Morning came cold and gray. Cole walked Main Street early, checking the telegraph lines. Everything looked normal, wires humming in the wind, poles standing straight. No sign of sabotage yet. But the town felt different, too quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. At the general store, conversation stopped when he entered. The shopkeeper wouldn't meet his eyes while measuring out coffee. Two miners at the counter turned their backs. By the time Cole reached the sheriff's office, he understood. Drummond had been busy. The note was tacked to his door, not official paper, just a torn piece of ledger with words in heavy pencil. Sheriff Banner has an unnatural interest in the Thorn Boy. Asks questions about why a bachelor keeps a child overnight, makes a man wonder. Cole's vision went red. He ripped the note down, crumpled it. But the damage was done. In a frontier town where reputation was everything, the insinuation alone could destroy a man. Inside, Eli sat at the desk, practicing. He looked up when Cole entered, saw his face, reached for the slate. What happened? Nothing. Keep practicing. But the boy knew. He always knew. An hour later, Martha burst through the door, face flushed with fury. They're saying things, horrible things, about you and my boy. I know. Mrs. Henderson wouldn't let me in her back door this morning, said she don't want that kind doing her washing. Martha's voice shook. 20 years I've washed her linens. 20 years. Cole felt something crack inside him. Not the first time Drummond had attacked, but going after Martha, spreading poison that would follow her the rest of her life. It's just talk, he said, not believing it. Talk ruins people out here. Martha looked at Eli, then back at Cole. Maybe we should stop. Let them take him to Helena. At least there, folks won't think. No. Eli's hand slammed the desk. He wrote furiously, We fight. Today, noon. Martha read it, closed her eyes. Baby, you don't understand what they're saying about... Eli grabbed her hand, made her look at him, wrote slower, each letter deliberate. I understand everything, always have. They think I am stupid. I am not. We tell truth today. The conviction in those words, the fierce intelligence burning in his eyes, Martha broke. She pulled her son close, finally let herself cry against his hair. Your papa would be so proud, she whispered. At 11:30, Doc Abernathy arrived with news. Drummond knows something's happening. How? His men are at the telegraph station, 3 of them sitting outside watching. Cole swore. They're going to cut the line. That's what they think, Doc smiled. They don't know about Jeb's backup. Still need to get Eli inside without them seeing. Already figured that. Jeb's arranged a distraction. At 1:45, a wagon overturned on Main Street. Flour sacks burst everywhere, white powder mixing with mud. The driver, one of Jeb's cousins, shouted and cursed, drew a crowd. Drummond's men moved closer to watch. Cole slipped Eli through the back alley. They entered the telegraph station through the rear door, the one that opened into Jeb's living quarters. Right on time. Jeb sat at his key, another operator beside him. Young man named Peters from the Helena line, in town visiting family. Peters here has agreed to verify transmission. Multiple operators makes it stronger. Drummond's men are outside, Cole said. I know, let them sit. Jeb checked his pocket watch. Noon circuit opens in 5 minutes. Eli, you ready? The boy nodded. His hands trembled slightly as he approached the key. Remember, Jeb said quietly, this goes to 17 stations simultaneously. Every word you tap gets transcribed by 17 different operators. They become your witnesses, your voice. Eli's fingers touched the brass key, warm from Jeb's practice run. Start with your name and location, Peters said. Legal testimony requires identification. The pocket watch ticked. Outside, Drummond's men laughed at something. The overturned wagon was being righted. Noon. Jeb threw the switch. The line went live. A subtle hum that meant connection, meant Montana Territory was listening. Now, he said. Eli's fingers moved. Click, click, click. Pause. Click, pause. Click, click, click. The opening. This is Eli Thorne, age 12, from Silver Creek, Montana Territory. Peters transcribed rapidly, his pencil flying. Jeb monitored the line strength. Eli continued, faster now, the clicks blending into rhythm like speech. On January 4th, 1889, I witnessed the murder of my father, John Thorne. The story poured out. The dawn hour, 3 men at the mine entrance. His father's voice raised in anger, the gunshot, the explosion that followed. Hiding in the rocks, watching 2 men emerge from smoke and dust while his father stayed buried. Eli's hands never hesitated. Every detail precise, the men's builds, their voices, the way one had laughed after the explosion. How they'd stood over the entrance, smoking cigarettes, waiting for the dust to settle before going back down to discover the body. Outside, Drummond's men noticed something. Cole heard raised voices. They're coming, Doc warned from the window. Keep going, Jeb told Eli. Don't stop. Boots hit the porch. The door rattled, locked. Open up, official council business. Eli tapped faster. His testimony named Drummond, named Pierce, the mining foreman, named Hatch, who kept the payroll books, described the real reason, $50,000 missing from company accounts. His father had discovered the theft, threatened to report it. The door shuddered under repeated kicks. Almost done, Peters muttered, his transcription racing to keep up. Eli tapped the final sentences. My father died because he was honest. I cannot speak with my voice, but I can speak with this. I swear before God and Montana Territory that everything I have written is true. The door burst open. Drummond's men flooded in, hands on their guns. What the hell is... Too late, Jeb said calmly. He threw another switch. A different line hummed to life. The backup, running through mining tunnels they didn't know existed. Peters held up his transcription. Received and verified. 17 stations, gentlemen. Every telegraph operator in Montana just heard this boy's testimony. One of Drummond's men lunged for the key. Cole's gun cleared leather faster. Touch that boy and you'll never leave this room. They froze. Through the open door, Cole could see townspeople gathering, drawn by the commotion, by the overturned wagon, by the sense that something was finally breaking open. Eli stood, moved to the window. His reflection stared back, thin, scared, but unbroken. He picked up the slate, wrote 4 words, held it up for everyone to see. They heard me now. By nightfall, the transcripts had reached Helena. By the next morning, they'd reached the territorial governor's office. By noon, federal marshals were on the train west. Cole sat in his office that evening, cleaning his gun with hands that wouldn't quite steady. Eli was at Martha's cabin, first night he'd spent there in weeks. The boy had wanted to stay, but Cole needed him safe, needed him away from what was coming. Doc arrived just after dark, carrying a bottle of whiskey. He set it on the desk without a word. I don't drink much anymore, Cole said. Tonight, you might want to. Doc poured 2 glasses. Drummond's lawyer filed an injunction, claims the telegraph testimony is inadmissible, coerced from a minor, transmitted without proper legal authority. Cole took the glass, didn't drink. Will it hold? Judge Harlan will rule in his favor, but the territorial judge in Helena, Doc smiled, She's already issued a stay on the custody transfer, wants to review the case personally. She? Judge Elizabeth Morrison, appointed last year, has a reputation for not tolerating powerful men who think they're above the law. Doc raised his glass. To women with gavels. They drank. The whiskey burned like righteous fire. There's something else, Doc said quietly. I got word this afternoon. Drummond's hired 2 men, drifters from Butte, the kind who do wet work for money. Cole's hand tightened on the glass. When? Soon. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Doc met his eyes. They're not coming for Eli. They're coming for you. The oil lamp flickered. Outside, March wind rattled the shutters. The smell of gun oil mixed with whiskey, with the ever-present scent of burnt coffee that haunted this office. I figured as much, Cole said. You could leave. Take the boy and Martha, head to Helena, be under federal protection by week's end. And let Drummond win? Let him kill witnesses until there's nobody left to testify? You can't testify if you're dead, Banner. Cole stood, crossed to the window. Main Street was dark except for lamplight and a few windows. The telegraph station sat silent now, but its wires still hummed with the truth Eli had sent across Montana. My wife died because I couldn't protect her, he said. Baby came too early. I was out chasing cattle rustlers, seemed important at the time. By the time I got back, they were both gone. Doc said nothing. I told myself it wasn't my fault. Told myself duty comes first. But the truth is, I chose wrong. I chose the law over love, and I've been living with that for 3 years. He turned from the window. I'm not choosing wrong this time. That boy needs someone to stand between him and men like Drummond. I reckon that's me. Even if it costs you everything? Everything I got left is already invested in keeping him alive. Cole picked up his badge, felt its weight, tin star, worn smooth from years of wear. Emma had pinned it on him the day he took office, kissed his cheek, told him she was proud. He'd failed her. He wouldn't fail Eli. I need you to do something for me, Cole said. Name it. If they kill me, you make sure that boy gets to Helena. You and Jeb, you keep him safe until the marshals arrive. Don't let Drummond's lawyers twist this into nothing. Doc's jaw tightened. You're not going to die. Maybe not. But if I do, someone needs to finish this. Cole pulled a folded paper from his desk drawer, his will, such as it was. Everything I own goes to Martha and Eli. The house, the land, my savings. It's not much, but it's honest. Banner, promise me. Doc took the paper, folded it into his coat. I promise. They sat in silence after that. The lamp burned lower. Outside the wind picked up, carrying the smell of rain and thawing earth. Spring was coming despite everything. The world kept turning, kept growing, kept pushing toward life even when men worked so hard at death. Around midnight, Cole heard it. Boots on the porch, too careful, too quiet. 2 sets. Doc heard it too. His hand moved to the pistol under his coat. Back door, Cole whispered. Doc slipped into the darkness. Cole stood, positioned himself beside the window. His gun was already drawn. The door didn't knock. It just opened, lock picked clean. 2 men entered, drifters like Doc said, hard faces, harder eyes. Guns already drawn. The first one saw Cole and fired. The bullet took a chunk out of the doorframe 6 inches from Cole's head. Cole fired back. The drifter went down, screaming, clutching his leg. The second one dove behind the desk. Federal business, drop your weapon. You're no federal agent, Cole said. Neither are you. The drifter's voice was calm, professional. Drummond's paying $500 to put you down. That's good money for one old sheriff. Then you'd better earn it. They circled each other in lamplight and shadow. The wounded man kept screaming until his partner told him to shut up. Nothing personal, the drifter said. You just made yourself inconvenient. Story of my life. The drifter lunged. Cole fired, but the man was fast, rolling, coming up with his gun aimed at Cole's chest. The shot that echoed wasn't from either of them. The drifter dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Behind him, Doc stood in the back doorway, smoking pistol steady in his surgeon's hands. I'm a healer, Doc said quietly. But I'm also a father who lost his son. I won't lose another boy to men like you. Cole moved to the wounded drifter, kicked his gun away. Who hired you? I want names. The man spat blood. Go to hell. Already there. Cole pressed his boot against the leg wound. The drifter screamed. Names. Drummond. Silas Drummond. He said you were causing problems, that the boy was lying, that we'd be doing the territory a favor. Where is he? The mine. They're— The drifter's eyes went wide. They're destroying evidence tonight, before the marshals arrive. Cole and Doc looked at each other. How many men? Doc asked. 6, maybe 7, armed. Cole reloaded his pistol with hands that were steady now, calm with purpose. He touched his badge, felt Emma's kiss still somehow warm on the tin. Get word to Jeb, he told Doc. Tell him to bring Eli to the mine at dawn, with the telegraph key. Banner, you can't. It's time to finish this. Cole rode through darkness toward mine shaft number 7. The smell of disturbed earth grew stronger as he climbed. Fresh digging, timber smoke, something chemical burning. Drummond was erasing evidence, covering tracks that led straight to murder and theft. 6 horses were tied outside the mine entrance. Lamplight flickered from deep in the shaft. Cole dismounted 100 yards out, moved on foot. The ground had softened enough to muffle his steps. March mud instead of February ice, spring coming whether men wanted it or not. He positioned himself behind a pile of tailings, watched. Men emerged from the shaft carrying crates, ledger books most likely, the financial records that would prove the theft. They were feeding them to a bonfire that sent sparks into the pre-dawn sky. Drummond stood watching, coat unbuttoned, face orange in firelight. Faster. Marshals will be here by noon. Cole counted 7 men total, all armed, all desperate. Bad odds for a 58-year-old sheriff with 1 pistol. But he'd faced worse. And this time, he wasn't fighting alone. He waited. Dawn came slow and cold. The sky lightened from black to gray, and with it came the sound Cole had been praying for. Wagon wheels, horses, voices. Doc and Jeb arrived first, the old telegraph key secured in a wooden crate. Behind them came Martha, and beside her, Eli. The boy carried his slate like a shield, and behind them half the town, miners and their wives, shopkeepers, the women who'd brought food that night, even Mrs. Henderson, who'd turned Martha away, looking ashamed now, but present. Drummond saw them coming and laughed. What's this? A lynch mob? Public hearing, Doc called out. Territorial law allows citizens to witness official investigations. There's no investigation. This is private property. Was private. Jeb set the telegraph crate down, began assembling the portable key he'd rigged. Federal marshals claimed jurisdiction 2 hours ago. Telegraph came through at 4 a.m. Drummond's face went pale. You're lying. Am I? Jeb threw a switch. The portable key clicked to life, connected to the main line via a spool of wire he'd run from town. Want me to ask them? They're 3 hours out. Be here by 9. The crowd murmured. Drummond's men shifted nervously, hands near their guns but not drawing. Too many witnesses now. Too many eyes. Cole stepped out from behind the tailings, his pistol visible but not raised. Morning, Drummond. Banner. Drummond's voice was tight. You've got no authority here. Federal marshals say different, and until they arrive, I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of John Thorne. Based on what? A mute boy's fantasy? Inadmissible testimony? Based on evidence you're currently destroying. Cole nodded toward the bonfire. Those ledgers, the ones that show $50,000 missing from payroll accounts, the ones John Thorne found before you killed him. Martha pushed forward. You shot my husband. My boy saw you. Your boy can't testify. But Drummond's confidence was cracking. He looked at his men. This is harassment. We're leaving. No. Eli stepped forward, slate in hand. The boy moved to Jeb's telegraph key, sat down, his hands rested on the brass, steady despite the cold. Drummond laughed, but it sounded forced. What's he going to do? Click at me? He's going to testify, Cole said. Again, live, right here, with all of you as witnesses. Jeb adjusted the connection. Keys live. Every word goes straight to Helena. Territorial Judge's office is standing by. Eli's fingers moved. The clicks echoed in the dawn stillness. Jeb translated aloud, his voice carrying. My name is Eli Thorne. I am 12 years old. On January 4th, 1889, I followed my father to mine shaft number 7 before dawn. Stop him, Drummond ordered. His men didn't move. The crowd had grown. More people arriving, drawn by word that something was finally breaking open. 50 people now, maybe more. Eli continued. I hid in the rocks above the entrance. I watched 3 men arrive. I recognized Silas Drummond by his voice and his coat, the black one with silver buttons he wears every Sunday to church. This is insane. Drummond lunged toward the key. Cole's gun came up. Don't. The crowd pressed closer. Someone had brought a camera, the photographer from the newspaper office. Flashbulbs popped, capturing everything. Eli's hands never stopped. I heard my father shout, "You can't steal from these families. I have proof." Mr. Drummond said, "Then you're a problem that needs solving." A gunshot, then an explosion. When the smoke cleared, only 2 men came out. My father never did. Martha wept openly now. Women surrounded her, held her up. Drummond's foreman, Pierce, broke first. "He's lying. Tell them, Silas. Tell them it was an accident." "Shut up," Drummond hissed. But Pierce kept talking, words tumbling out like water through a broken dam. "I didn't know you were going to kill him. You said we'd just scare him, make him understand." "I said shut up. I got a family." Pierce's voice cracked. "I can't hang for your greed." Eli tapped again. Pierce held my father. Hatch set the dynamite. Drummond pulled the trigger. "That's enough." Drummond drew his pistol. Everything happened fast. Cole fired. Drummond's gun flew from his hand, blood spraying from his wrist. Drummond dove for it with his other hand. Eli didn't move from the key, didn't flinch, just kept tapping. He is reaching for his gun now. At dawn on March 12, 1889, with 50 witnesses watching. The crowd surged forward. Miners grabbed Drummond's men, disarmed them. Doc kicked Drummond's pistol away, pressed his medical bag against the bleeding wrist. Cole moved to Eli, put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "It's done, son." But Eli tapped one more message. My father was honest. He died for being honest. I promised myself I would be honest too, no matter what it cost. Justice doesn't need a voice. It just needs someone willing to listen. Sheriff Cole Banner listened. He saved my life. Now I save his. The boy looked up at Cole, tears streaming down his face, and then something impossible. Eli's mouth opened. A sound came out, rough, broken, like machinery that hadn't run in years. Dad? One word, the first word he'd ever spoken aloud. Cole's knees nearly buckled. He pulled the boy close, felt him shake with effort and emotion. The crowd went silent. Even Drummond stopped struggling. Martha pushed through, dropped beside her son. Baby, you spoke." Eli's hand found the slate, wrote quickly, "Some things are worth finding your voice for. In the distance, horses." The federal marshals arriving early, drawn by telegraph reports of armed confrontation. Judge Morrison rode at the front. Tall woman in black, federal badge on her coat. She took in the scene. The bonfire of evidence. Drummond bleeding and surrounded. The portable telegraph still clicking. The crowd of witnesses. "Sheriff Banner? Ma'am? I'll take custody of the prisoners." She dismounted, studied Eli. "This the boy who's been flooding my telegraph station with testimony?" Eli nodded. "You've got courage, son, and quite a gift for communication." She smiled. "I'll need you and Helena for the trial. You willing to testify in person?" Eli picked up his slate. "Yes, with my father." He pointed at Cole. The sheriff felt his throat close. He touched his badge, felt its weight different now, not burden, purpose. "He means me," Cole managed. I gathered. Judge Morrison's eyes were kind. "We'll arrange transport. All 3 of you, mother, boy, and guardian." She turned to Drummond. "Silas Drummond, you're under arrest for murder, theft, conspiracy, and destruction of federal evidence. Your friends, too." As the marshals loaded them into wagons, Drummond looked at Eli one last time. "You're just a crippled kid," he said. "You were never supposed to matter." Eli's hand moved to the slate. He wrote in letters large enough for everyone to see, "Everybody matters." The trial lasted 3 days. Drummond's lawyers argued procedure, jurisdiction, admissibility. None of it mattered. 17 telegraph transcripts, 50 eyewitnesses, Pierce's confession. The recovered ledgers showed everything. $50,000 stolen over 8 months, falsified payroll records, bribes to Judge Harlan. The jury deliberated 20 minutes, guilty on all counts. Drummond got 20 years hard labor. Pierce and Hatch got 10 each. Judge Harlan was removed from the bench, disbarred, facing his own charges. Martha Thorne received $15,000 in restitution, John's back wages, compensation for his death, damages for the custody attempt. More money than she'd seen in her entire life. She bought a small house on Main Street, kept washing clothes because she liked the work, liked the women who brought their laundry and stayed to talk. But now she did it because she wanted to, not because starvation was the alternative. April came soft and green. The mine closed permanently. Too much corruption, too many ghosts. Most families moved on to other towns, other work, but some stayed. Silver Creek was home after all, and home meant something now that justice had finally shown its face. Cole sat on his porch one evening, watching the sun drop behind the mountains. The air smelled of warming earth and new grass. Robins had built a nest in the telegraph wire that ran past his office. Their chirping mixed with the wire's hum, nature and technology singing together. Eli sat beside him, teaching a younger boy the alphabet on his slate. The miner's son, 8 years old, shy and eager. Eli's hand moved patiently, demonstrating each letter. The boy's mother had brought them lemonade an hour ago. She'd kissed Cole's cheek in thanks, first public affection he'd received since Emma died. It had surprised him how much that simple gesture meant. Martha came up the walk, carrying a basket. She wore a new dress, yellow cotton that caught the evening light. She'd put on weight since the trial, good weight, health instead of hunger. "Brought supper," she said. "If you're hungry." "Always hungry for your cooking." She smiled, set the basket down. Inside, fried chicken, biscuits, preserves. The smell made Cole's stomach growl. They ate together, the four of them, on the porch. The young boy chattered about learning his letters, about how Eli was the smartest teacher ever, even though he couldn't talk much. "He don't need to," the boy said through a mouthful of biscuit. "He just shows me stuff, and I get it." Eli wrote on his slate, "You are a good student." The boy beamed. After supper, Martha sent the boy home with leftover chicken for his family. Eli cleared the dishes without being asked, carried them inside. Cole and Martha sat in the gathering dusk, listening to evening sounds, crickets starting up, a dog barking somewhere down the street, the telegraph wire humming its endless song. "Judge Morrison sent a letter," Martha said quietly. "Wants Eli to consider working for the Territorial Telegraph Service when he's older. Says his skill is remarkable." "That it is." "She also said," Martha's voice caught, "she said what you did, standing up when no one else would, that takes a rare kind of courage." Cole didn't know what to say to that. He'd just done what needed doing, what Emma would have wanted him to do. "She said something else, too." Martha turned to face him. "Said a boy like Eli needs a father figure, someone who already proved he'd die to protect him." Cole's heart kicked hard against his ribs. "Martha, I ain't asking for marriage or nothing like that." Her cheeks flushed. "I know you still love your wife. I understand that. I still love John." "Then what are you asking?" "For you to consider making it official. The guardianship, the three of us, as family." She twisted her hands in her lap. "Not romantic, just real, legal. The kind of family that looks after each other because they choose to, not because the law says so." Inside, Eli tapped on the window. He held up his slate, pressed it against the glass. "Say yes." Cole laughed, felt tears sting his eyes. "You put him up to this?" "He put me up to it," Martha smiled. "Boy's been writing notes about it for weeks. Says you're lonely, says I'm lonely, says he needs both of us." "Smart kid. Smartest I know." Cole looked at his badge, still pinned to his vest. He unpinned it slowly, studied it in the fading light. Tin star, worn smooth from years. Emma's kiss still somehow warm on the metal. He stood, walked inside. Eli watched him with those bright, knowing eyes. "Your mama says you've been scheming." Eli grinned, nodded. Cole held out the badge. "Then I reckon you should have this, for safekeeping." "No," Eli's voice, still rough, still broken, but getting stronger every day. He spoke in single words now, sometimes two. The doctor said he might never speak full sentences, but that was fine. He had other ways to say what mattered. Eli took the badge, walked to the shelf where Martha kept her prayer altar. Candles, a photograph of John, wildflowers in a jar. He set the badge beside the photograph. The candlelight caught the tin star, reflected off its worn surface. The angle was perfect. The reflection formed a heart, glowing and certain. Eli wrote on his slate, "Family." Cole looked at Martha standing in the doorway, at Eli beside the altar, at the home they'd built from grief and courage and choosing each other when the world said they shouldn't matter. "Yeah," he said softly. "Family." Outside, spring deepened into evening. The telegraph wires hummed. Somewhere down the street, children laughed. The world kept turning, kept growing, kept pushing toward life. And in a small sheriff's office in Silver Creek, Montana, 3 people who'd lost everything found something better than what they'd had before. They found each other. 3 months later, Cole sat on that same porch on a warm May evening. Eli was beside him, teaching another child, a girl this time, miner's daughter, bright-eyed and curious. The slate passed between them, chalk dust catching the golden light. Martha brought lemonade, kissed Cole's cheek the way she did now, easy and natural. Not romance, just affection, the kind that grows between people who've walked through fire together and come out holding hands. I reckon folks think justice is about law books and guns, Cole said, half to himself, half to the evening air. Maybe it is, sometimes. Eli looked up, tilted his head. But that winter taught me different. Justice is about listening. Cole watched a robin land on the telegraph wire, add its song to the humming metal. Not just hearing words, listening to what a man's eyes tell you, what his hands tap out when he thinks nobody's paying attention. He touched Eli's shoulder. The boy had grown 2 inches since January, still thin, still quiet most days, but stronger, sure of himself in ways that mattered more than muscle. You couldn't speak, but Lord, you had more to say than most men I've met. Eli tapped his arm. 3 beats, pause, 3 more. Their private code now. Meant I love you in the language they'd built together. Cole tapped back, clumsy but sincere. The little girl watched, fascinated. What's that mean? Means family, Eli said aloud, voice still rough but clear enough. The girl smiled, went back to her letters. Cole leaned back in his chair, felt the evening settle warm around them. The telegraph wires sang their endless song. Wildflowers bloomed near the sealed mine shaft where a memorial cross stood. The world had softened from winter's sharp edges into spring's gentle promise. Sometimes justice doesn't need words, Cole said quietly. Just someone willing to listen. He looked at Eli, at Martha in the doorway, at the badge still resting on the altar inside, its reflection forming a heart in candlelight. And by God's mercy, I heard him loud and clear.